will pay off. Michelle Clifford, Sky News.
Well, I'm joined now by Mark Littlewood, the Director General of the Institute of Economic Affairs. Good evening to you, Mr. Littlewood. What do you make of the cuts today? Have they gone far enough?
I actually think that they could have gone a little further. I think there was some low-hanging fruit, if you like, that they didn't pick off the tree. There was some suggestion that the age of child benefit might be cut back. I still think it's pretty preposterous that there are some universal benefits that mean that elderly millionaires get free TV licences, free bus passes, etc. But all, in the round, I think this is a pretty prudent measure on the expenditure side. If you like, the Coalition government and George Osborne have stemmed the bleeding, and that certainly needed doing. But the big challenge, of course, which I thought came out quite well in your package, is if we're actually looking at perhaps 500,000, perhaps even 1 million jobs that will go as a consequence of this, what is the government's strategy to ensure that those people can easily find employment again? And I think that George Osborne and the government now need to turn their attention to the supply side of the economy, to making some reforms and some changes that make it easier for businesses to recruit and retain staff. We've heard over the recent weeks and months an awful lot about this austerity package, but I think just to hope that the private sector will pick up the slack and propel growth forward could be a forlorn hope unless the government makes some substantial reforms to actually assist British businesses.
So what form would those substantial reforms that you suggest they need to take?
Well, there needs to be a colossal war on red tape, not just on reducing spending. The tax code in Britain is the longest in the world. It's about 6 times as long as War and Peace in terms of page count. Companies in Britain spend nearly £20 billion a year just complying with the taxation laws in Britain, let alone actually paying taxation itself. We have a pretty rigid labour market. The last administration didn't just overspend, it over-regulated. Well, I think we need to resist potential measures to, for example, increase maternity leave. Some of these employers' rights always sound very attractive, but they don't make Britain a particularly competitive place to do business. Now, we saw just yesterday that there were 35 business leaders who were confident that their companies could, if you like, fill the gap that was made by these cuts. But I don't think we should leave it to chance. I think it is now incumbent upon the government to make sure that Britain is a dynamic and attractive place to do business. And that means slashing red tape, removing regulations, simplifying our tax code, and if at all possible to indicate that as the economic recovery gets underway, the priority should be tax cuts, not increased public spending.
Just briefly, you talked about maternity payments there. You've also singled out the minimum wage as a benefit that has to go. Aren't you just trying to turn the clock back to pre-1997?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm realistic about Britain's need to do business properly in the global economy. The minimum wage is a barrier to taking people on, especially that it's set at a national, not a regional level. And we're going to have to be very imaginative and very bold in liberalising the private sector of our economy, because it's the private sector now who need to step up to the plate to actually create the jobs, drive the economic growth that this country badly needs. And I think the government needs to do everything it possibly can to facilitate that process.
Thank you very much indeed for your time this evening.